Hello, my dear viewers. Today will be a very interesting story. I recommend watching the video to the end. Put a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and be sure to write comments on what you liked or did not like, and if you have an interesting criminal story from your life. Write your story in the comments and I will make a video and tell your story here on the channel. Okay, I have detained you. I wish you a good mood and viewing. Hi, my name's Emily. I'm 27, a stepdaughter to a woman named Crifan, and this story. Well, it's something I've never told anyone before. But I feel like it's time the truth came out. It all began with a simple dinner invitation. Crifan had planned one of her famous family gatherings, a big deal for her. She loved to flaunt our perfect family to her friends. Dad adored her, and she always made sure everyone knew it. This dinner, though, wasn't just for close family. She invited her business associates, a couple of neighbors, and some distant relatives we hardly ever saw. It was Crifan's way of showing the world her perfect life, but it wasn't perfect, I knew that. You see, my dad, Mark, married Crifan when I was 15, not long after my mom passed away. Crifan had this picture-perfect appearance, a beautiful smile, immaculate blonde curls, and a voice so sweet you'd think she could never hurt a fly. But behind the closed doors of our house, she was controlling, manipulative, and, quite frankly, a master at playing the victim. I tolerated her for my dad's sake, though. He seemed happy with her, or at least he pretended to be, but then something happened. Something I never expected. A week before the dinner, I stumbled across an email while using the family computer. It wasn't snooping, I swear. I was just logging into my own account, and her email popped up. The subject line caught my eye. It read, "Last night was perfect." Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on it. The message wasn't from my dad. It was from a man named Ethan. My hands trembled as I stared at the email. The words blurred, but I forced myself to focus. Ethan had written, "I can't stop thinking about last night. The way you laughed, the way you kissed me, it felt like nothing else mattered. You said you were unhappy at home, and I just want you to know I'll wait for you, Crifan, no matter how long it takes. Love, Ethan." I froze, trying to process what I'd just read. My stepmother, the woman who'd woven herself into my family's life like a silk thread, was having an affair, and not just a casual fling. It sounded emotional, intimate, deep. I wanted to scream, to confront her right then and there, but I didn't. Instead, I quickly closed the email and walked away, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I needed to think. That night, I barely slept. The idea of Crifan betraying my dad, this man who adored her, who'd given her everything, made me sick. And Ethan, who was he? Where did he fit into Crifan's double life? The next morning, I decided to dig deeper. I know it sounds wrong, but something inside me wouldn't let it go. So, while Crifan was out running errands, I went back to the family computer and searched her email for Ethan's name. There were dozens of messages. Some were short and sweet, "I miss you already," or "thinking about you," but others were more explicit. I won't repeat what they said, but trust me, they left no room for doubt about what was going on between them. As if that weren't bad enough, one email mentioned Ethan's upcoming visit. I scrolled further, my stomach churning. Apparently, Ethan was planning to attend the family dinner. He wasn't just some stranger Crifan was hiding away. He was someone she was bringing into our home, sitting at our table, pretending to be just another guest. And that's when I knew I had to act. The day after I discovered the emails, I couldn't stop replaying everything in my mind. Every smile Karen gave my dad, every sweet word she'd said in front of us, it all felt like a lie. I couldn't look at her without wondering how long this had been going on and what kind of man Ethan was. I needed answers. That evening, I waited for Karen to leave the house again. She always went to the gym at 6 p.m. sharp, dressed in her spotless workout gear, complete with a designer water bottle. It was almost laughable. She'd act like she was going to sweat it out on the treadmill, but I knew better. She wasn't coming back with so much as a stray hair out of place. As soon as she pulled out of the driveway, I ran upstairs to her bedroom. Karen's life revolved around appearances, so her closet was immaculate. Designer shoes and clear boxes, color-coded dresses, and a faint hint of lavender from her sachets. I went straight to her nightstand. Inside, I found the usual hand lotion, a couple of books, some receipts, but then I spotted a small leather-bound journal tucked in the back. My pulse quickened. I hesitated for a moment, then flipped it open. The first few pages were harmless, filled with lists of goals and quotes she'd probably picked up from Instagram. But then, about halfway through, I hit the jackpot. Karen's handwriting spilled secrets she'd never dare say aloud. I saw Ethan again today. One entry read, "He makes me feel alive in a way Mark never has. Mark is kind and dependable, but there's no fire anymore. Ethan, he's dangerous, exciting, everything I've been missing." Another entry mentioned how they'd met at one of her business luncheons. Ethan was a client, someone she'd struck up a conversation with during a networking event. What started as friendly banter turned into long lunches, late-night calls, and eventually, well, you get the idea. But the most chilling part was at the end of the entry. I wish I could tell Ethan the truth about my stepdaughter. Emily is smart, too smart. I think she suspects something. I dropped the journal, my heart pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. She knew I was onto her. Had I been that obvious? Suddenly, I heard the faint rumble of Karen's car pulling into the driveway. Panic surged through me. I shoved the journal back into the drawer, carefully arranging everything as it was before sprinting downstairs to the living room. I grabbed a random book off the coffee table and pretended to read as Karen walked in. "Hey, she said, her voice as sugary sweet as ever. "What are you reading?" "Oh, just something for work," I replied, not meeting her eyes. "Good girl," she smiled, but there was something about the way her gaze lingered on me. It felt sharp, calculating. I couldn't let her know what I'd found. Not yet. Not until I figured out what to do. The days leading up to the dinner were unbearable. I couldn't stop thinking about the emails, the journal, and Karen's unnerving smile when she looked at me. She knew something was off, but I wasn't about to let her win. When the day finally arrived, I had a plan. Karen, as expected, was in full hostess mode. She flitted around the house, barking orders at the caterers and adjusting every detail to perfection. The dining table gleamed with polished silverware, and the air was heavy with the smell of roasted chicken, baked potatoes, and her signature apple pie. Dad, oblivious as ever, was in the living room chatting with a couple of neighbors. He looked so happy, so proud of the life he'd built with Karen. Watching him made my chest tighten. He didn't deserve this. The guests started arriving around 7 p.m. and Karen played her part perfectly. She greeted everyone with hugs, compliments, and that wide, practiced smile. I watched her like a hawk waiting for Ethan to show up, and then he did. He was tall, clean-shaven, and had that polished look of a businessman who knows how to command a room. He wore a crisp navy suit, his hair perfectly combed back. But what struck me most was the way Karen lit up when she saw him. It wasn't subtle, not to me. At least, Ethan. Karen exclaimed, walking over to him with an enthusiasm she didn't show for anyone else. "I'm so glad you could make it." Their hug lasted a second too long. "Wouldn't miss it," he replied, his eyes lingering on her in a way that made my stomach churn. I stayed quiet, watching from the corner of the room. Ethan was introduced to everyone as a business associate, and nobody thought twice about it. Why would they? Karen was a master manipulator. The night went on, and I kept my distance, waiting for the right moment. As we all sat down at the table, Karen raised her glass for a toast. "I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight," she said, her voice dripping with charm. "Family is everything, and I'm so grateful for all of you." Her eyes flicked to Ethan for the briefest moment, and I felt my fists clench under the table. The conversation flowed easily after that, laughing, reminiscing, the clinking of glasses. Karen was in her element, playing the perfect wife and hostess. But beneath it all, I could see the tension, the way her eyes darted to Ethan whenever she thought no one was looking. And then it happened. "Emily, you've been quiet tonight," Karen said suddenly, turning her attention to me. Her tone was light, but there was an edge to it, like she was challenging me. I forced a smile, my heart pounding. "Just taking it all in," I replied. "Well, don't be shy," she said with a laugh. "You're part of this family, too." Her words felt like a taunt. I glanced at my dad, who was happily eating his dinner, completely unaware of the storm brewing around him. I looked back at Karen, then at Ethan, and I knew I couldn't hold it in any longer. "Actually, there's something I've been meaning to share," I said, my voice steady. The room fell silent. All eyes were on me. "What is it, sweetheart?" my dad asked, his brow furrowing slightly. I looked directly at Karen, watching the color drain from her face. "It's about Karen and Ethan," I said slowly, letting the weight of my words sink in. Time seemed to stop as I delivered the words. The dining room, moments ago filled with the gentle clink of silverware and polite conversation, fell into a suffocating silence. Every eye turned to me, but I remained focused on Karen's face. Her perfect hostess smile began to falter, the carefully applied mask cracking under the weight of exposure. Beside her, Ethan sat frozen, his wine glass suspended halfway to his mouth. Karen was the first to break the silence, her composure wavering but not quite broken. "Emily," she said, her voice straining for control, "I don't understand what you're implying." I pressed my palms against the table's edge, steadying myself. "I think you understand perfectly. You and Ethan aren't just colleagues, you've been sleeping together behind my father's back." The revelation sent shockwaves through the room. My father's fork hit his plate with a sharp clatter. "Emily," he whispered, "what are you saying?" "I found everything, Karen," I continued, my voice trembling with barely contained emotion. "The emails, your journal, it's all there. And now you have the audacity to bring him into our home, acting like nothing's wrong." Karen lurched to her feet, her chair screeching against the hardwood. "This is outrageous," she snarled, her carefully maintained poise shattering completely. You're making up lies, really, I challenged, holding her gaze. Would you like me to share the emails with everyone? Should I quote from your journal? The silence that followed was deafening. My father turned to Crifan, his expression a storm of betrayal and rage. Crifan, he said, his voice dangerously quiet, tell me the truth. She stood paralyzed, words failing her, but it was Ethan who cracked first. I should leave, he mumbled, starting to rise. Don't move, my father thundered, making everyone jump. Ethan glanced helplessly at Crifan, but she remained speechless, trapped in her own web of lies. Answer me, Dad demanded, his voice cracking. Is it true? Crifan's eyes welled up, and for once her tears weren't just for show. Mark, please understand, she pleaded. I never meant to. I do love you, but... Don't, Dad roared, his fist crashing down on the table. Don't you dare say those words to me. Crifan recoiled as if struck. The other guests sat motionless, unwilling witnesses to our family's implosion. There's more, Dad, I said softly but firmly. She's been planning to leave you. She told Ethan she's unhappy. Everything has been a lie. I watched as my father's face crumpled, tears spilling down his cheeks. It was the first time I'd ever seen him cry, and the sight tore at my heart, but I knew he needed to hear it all. Crifan reached for him desperately. Mark, let me explain. Get away from me, he rasped. I can't even look at you right now. The evening dissolved into chaos after that. Crifan fled upstairs, Ethan slipped away without a word, and our guests made their uncomfortable exits, offering awkward condolences to my father on their way out. I stayed behind to help clean up, though neither of us spoke. We moved through the motions in silence, the weight of what had happened pressing down on us both. That night, Crifan packed her things and left. Whether she went to Ethan or somewhere else, I never knew and never cared to find out. Dad filed for divorce the next morning, and while his recovery took time, he eventually found happiness with someone worthy of his trust. Looking back, I learned that revealing the truth, however painful, can be an act of love. Sometimes breaking things is the only way to make them right. As for Crifan, she vanished from our lives completely. But sometimes I wonder if she ever reflects on what she destroyed, the family she shattered, and the trust she never regained. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. This will help me work better and faster for you. I would be grateful, so watch my other videos.